Well, hello. We're back. We are all sunshiny, tanned, and blonde from spring break. The Crescent Lake Club Live is back after taking a little time off, because it was spring break. So I'm here with Teets, and it's another Marvel Monday, and we're going to be talking Iron Man 2. But first, just going to check in with Teets. What's been up with you lately? I miss anything exciting?
No, just coaching some football. Spring football, it's something.
Spring football. You guys had your first game this past week?
We did.
And how did that go?
We lost, but, can't win them all, I guess.
No, you can't win them all.
Didn't get shut out, so that's good.
Hey, so that's almost like a moral victory.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I'm back here in Crescent Lake Club headquarters in New Orleans. Just a little quick housekeeping. We are going to have a traditional stream week this week. So Courtney and I will be back on Wednesday for Wind Down Wednesday. And then we will be all together on Sunday for Sunday Funday, Crescent Lake Club Live. And then Teets and I will be back for one more Marvel Monday before we take a break. And the reason we're taking that break is because the whole gang is going to Florida. So yeah, we're actually going to be taking our real spring break. We will try and surprise you guys with one happiest hour, at least live from there, but we're also going to be filming a whole bunch of content. And if you check out our website at crescentlakeclub.com, we've got a blog there, and we're going to kind of be keeping you guys up to date on what we're going to be doing when we're in Florida. But definitely tune in on Sunday to find out more about our trip and what you guys can help us out with and what you want to see from us when we go live from Florida. So to kind of recap, it's Marvel Monday. A few weeks ago, Teets and I decided to start a chronological rewatch of the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we are on to Iron Man 2. So this is the fourth in the chronological order. It started with Captain America, the first Avenger, then Captain Marvel, and now we are in our back-to-back Iron Man, our double dose of Iron Man. So our last show, we watched the OG Iron Man. And so this week we're going to talk about just a continuation of the origin story of Iron Man. And we get to, this week, but we get to meet a couple more characters and we find out a little bit more about what's going on. But I think it's perfect timing because we get to meet her character for the very first time in the cinematic universe in Iron Man 2. And just last week, we got some news about her origin story movie, which Black Widow finally, we'll see if it sticks, but it seems like this date is actually going to make. It looks like we're finally going to get to see a release date and finally plan to watch the new Black Widow movie. And that's going to be on Disney Plus. Premium access or in theaters on July 9th. So they think what I'm missing is, have they said how much it's going to cost? Because I said I would pay up to $75 to watch it on Disney Plus at my house.
They haven't said anything other. I think most people are just assuming it's going to be the $30 like every other one has been so far. So I think unless they say otherwise, that's what it's going to be.
So, and Teets and I were just kind of talking, if all things work out on our schedule as we have planned, it's like Disney knew what we were doing and they wanted everything to fall in perfectly in place. And so the Black Widow movie is supposed to take place between the events of Civil War and Infinity War. And the week it comes out will be the week that we watch Civil War. So it looks like everything's lining up to fall into place. Now we have so I'm getting caught up. I have 2 episodes left of WandaVision, and I've watched the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We may do once I watch both of those, we may do a special kind of episode for each of them, maybe on like a Thursday night or something, just to talk about those, because they both happen after the events essentially the events of Endgame, especially WandaVision.
Yep.
And there is a lot I want to talk about in WandaVision, and where I think it goes into the fourth, as we're starting to see through this chronological rewatch, and maybe, I don't know if Teets feels this way just yet, but you can definitely see the kind of cycles or periods of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how everything kind of evolves. And I think WandaVision is a really great window into what the fourth life cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be. It's really brutal. I can tell you, I think I sent Teets about 100 text messages that were like, F you, Marvel, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. I mean, I really don't, but goodness, I don't know how you got, like, I'm glad I'm kind of stacking them all to watch in like big chunks of time. I don't know if I could like look forward to watching this every week, just knowing that it's going to keep getting sadder and sadder. I mean, I already watched Grey's Anatomy. I don't have time for 2 weekly installments of just sad. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, like I said off air, I'm surprised you already had those feelings and you're not even done with it yet. Because the last 2, there's more.
Well, it's like everyone will tell you I'm a crier, so it's like when we get to my Endgame story is I don't think it's a spoiler. Well, whatever. Again, Endgame came out 3 years ago. So if you haven't seen it, I have bad news for you. But in like the first 2 minutes of Endgame, you see Hawkeye and he's all happy with his wife and his kids, and they're in the yard. And then the snap happens and his family disappears. Meanwhile, Keels hasn't even opened her BYOB can of wine yet and is just sobbing, like uncontrollable crying. So I'm a crier, especially in movies and TV shows. I'm a very emotional person. And yeah. WandaVision got me. And apparently I'm not even to the worst part yet. So we will definitely be circling back on a special edition to talk about WandaVision, and then eventually to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Again, this is a great time to point out, if you're watching us on Twitch, hit that purple follow button so you get alerts whenever we go live. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the little bell notification. And again, you'll also get alerts when we go live. Sometimes we like to do this stuff just on a whim. We don't advertise on social media. We just feel like getting on here to talk about, movies and whatnot. So that said, did I leave anything out before we get to this movie?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we are now to Iron Man 2, which you might as well just call it Pepper Potts. I told Teets, I'm like, if I had to theme this movie, it would be Iron Man 2, Tony's got 99 problems and a bitch is one. Because case you, for some reason, wanted to know more about Pepper Potts, boy, you are going to get a movie full of Pepper Potts in this movie. So we'll go through it. I think there are 3 major things to talk about from this movie. We're going to meet one very, very important character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've already talked about it. It's Black Widow. 2, we are going to really dive into Tony's daddy issues, massive daddy issues. And then 3, Tony is going to have his first run-in with evil genius that's not him. So we'll kind of start it off. It really picks up pretty much right where the first Iron Man movie left off. And we've got Tony and Stark Industries hosting this big shindig, complete with half-naked women dancing around in like stripper versions of Iron Man costumes. So Teets, take it from there.
Yeah, so like Keel said, we do pretty much start off right at the end, like one of the first things we see is the I am Iron Man speech playing on a TV in character Ivan Banco's place, who will be a big part of this movie. And then we kind of fast forward 6 months later, and we are headed to the Stark Expo. And Tony is all about, he's on like his big, I don't know, world tour of being Iron Man now. He's all about himself. And he boasts about how he's bringing world peace and, everything's great since he's been Iron Man kind of stuff. And we see one thing I did want to mention, because I put it down in my notes, is in that Stark Expo part, we see a video of Howard Stark. And if for the Disney fans out there, it's very reminiscent of the Walt Disney Epcot reveal video or show that he did way back when. So I thought it's a cool little touch there. And then we get right off the bat, we get our Stan Lee cameo. He is right in the beginning, and he plays Larry King. So he's like in there for like literally a second. This one's very quick. And then Stark, as he's leaving the expo, he gets a subpoena to testify in front of the U.S. Senate. And then we go over to the Senate, and Senator Stern, who is kind of the jackass of the Senate, is not a fan of Tony Stark. And Tony Stark, Senator Stern wants Tony to hand over the suit to the U.S. government so the military can use it rather than just Tony using it. And that's also then where we meet Justin Hammer, who kind of plays a villainous role in this. But he is the weapons manufacturer for the U.S. government now that Stark Industries no longer does such. And this is then we see Rhodes walk in, who is now played by Don Cheadle. Character change there to this movie. And Tony gives does his job at the Senate hearing and pisses off Senator Stern. And then I put this in there because after that Tony was working in his lab or office or whatever you want to call it in his basement essentially. And given our pandemic times, Pepper walked in and she was like sick or something. And Tony's like, I want you to wear a mask. So I thought that was kind of funny given how we're in a pandemic right now and everybody's wearing masks.
Let's rewind back just a little bit before he goes into the room. We see Tony is struggling with quite a few things, and it's all related to the thing that is powering him and the Iron Man suit, and what is it? Palladium, or he needs to continue to power all of that, is at a shortage, and he has been given essentially a finite lifespan. And so what does Tony, the most irrational person on the face of the planet, begin doing when he can't immediately find an answer to something? He's throwing in the towel. He is giving away everything, his art collection. He is turning, for some reason, it's probably just because she was the only one there, he's turning the company over to Pepper Potts. All of this just completely irrational nonsense, but that's how Tony operates. So also, to go back to the Stark Expo, we did have another really funny cameo, and that was Elon Musk, who is essentially the real life version of Tony Stark.
He's not, or is he in the expo? Because he's at Monte Carlo or Montecito or whatever the race after. But is he at the expo too?
He's at the expo. It's because
I missed that one.
The blonde reporter starts talking to him. Oh, maybe it is Monte Carlo. Maybe I'm confusing the two. Anyway, we get to see Elon Musk, which is pretty much real life Tony Stark. So here's the first Pepper Potts issue. So now Tony is wanting to give away everything, and Pepper Potts is going to be the largest recipient of it by becoming like president and CEO of Stark Industries. No. But it's right around then, I believe, is when she brings on Natalie.
Natalie, yes.
She goes by Natalie in Iron Man 2. But those of us who know her otherwise as Natasha. But we get our first glimpse at a Black Widow. So she arrives and she's there. I can't even remember. This drives me crazy because she says she's like with legal, and I'm not really sure what she's there to do other than literally just shadow what Tony is doing to report back to Nick Fury. I'm jumping way ahead here, but if you want to go and pick back up where you were saying Pepper, he's like, and then he tells Pepper Potts, "You're sick. If you're going to be around me, you need to wear a mask."
Yep.
Okay,
So Tony was kind of he's like you said, giving everything away because he thinks he's gonna die. So the world is ending. So he needs to have contingency plans. And so then we go off to Monte Carlo or wherever we are, and for a IndyCar race. And Tony, being the irrational and crazy person that he is right now, decides he's going to drive his race car that he owns. So he gets in the car and starts driving, and then this is where we meet Vanko again, and he comes out with these electrical whips essentially, and he just starts breaking cars. And of course, Tony's is one, and Tony goes flying, and then Pepper and Happy come and try to save the day in the Rolls Royce or whatever they're driving, and throw the Iron Man suit to Tony, and he fights off Vanko for the time being. And then Vanko is arrested, but later breaks out of jail with the help of Justin Hammer. And so then that's where the Natalie or Natasha, who is Black Widow, is all part of this as well. She's been hanging around this whole time.
So like right around now, Pepper is taken over as CEO of Stark Industries. And so Tony decides to make Natalie his new Pepper Potts, his new assistant. She's got like her hands and everything, but really what she's doing is she's just overshadowing just to kind of get an idea of what kind of person Tony is, everything he's got going on, what his whole scene is. Tony also learns that Vanko is the son of another like scientist that worked with his dad, Howard. And this kind of is the start of all of these. Here's Tony's daddy issues with Howard because we go through all of this. It's Tony still thinking he's about to die, and it's going to be his last birthday party, and he wants to have this like big blowout thing. I think at one point, like Natalie's doing his makeup because there's like cover up some busted face that he's got going on. And Tony. He's just partying really hard, and Rhodes comes in. Like they come in to try and like Pepper wants to shut it down and say, "Everyone go home. You're being ridiculous. This is out of control." And he starts. I think he's wearing the suit, and he is drunk and starts firing it around. And then Rhodes dons the second suit and, tries to shut things down. And that's the end of that pretty much. And the next day he wakes up hungover, like all of us who have had really bad nights, full of regret. Most of them don't involve like an Iron Man suit and nearly killing everybody at our last birthday party. But our good friend Nick Fury shows up. And this is when Tony kind of, "Oh, my dad didn't love anything, or he definitely didn't love me. Just, woe is Tony. His dad hated him," all of this. And Nick pretty much sets him straight. He's like, "Look, no, your dad loved you," all of this. And I believe that's when we find out that Natalie is actually Natasha, and she's an agent of the S.H.I.E.L.D., and she is there to basically gauge the character and the ability of Tony to see if he would be a worthwhile participant with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers Project. But after Nick gives Tony this man-to-man and basically tells him to nut up, your life isn't as miserable, your dad didn't hate you. Tony takes his dad's journals and videos that his dad was making too. It's basically the B-roll from the move or from the frames that Teets talked about earlier of the reveal. And you see Tony is trying to mess up his dad's big, whatchamacallit. What is that kind of thing? His not a diorama.
A model or whatever, yeah.
A model of everything. He's trying to fuss with everything, and it's upsetting his dad because his dad is under the pressure to do this video for a reason. And then we get a stark cut. Oh, stark, I didn't mean to use that as a pun, but there's this cut, and then Howard addresses the camera, and he's like, Tony, you're watching this. And he's like, look, you're the most important thing in the world to me. I'm doing all of this for you, meaning building the arc reactor and everything that he's building with the Russians and everything. He is doing this with just Tony in mind. And I think that gives Tony a little bit of peace, but Tony's a real narcissist, so he really buys. And he's like, finally, I know that my dad loved me. So, it's in 1974. Is a diorama. So that is the right word. It was a diorama because you could see all the different pods of everything, and So, what happens after that?
Well, during this whole time, because Vanko
I think I'm jumping around a little bit, but
he since Hammer took him in, Hammer is tasking him with creating suits for the government with Hammer tech, which we learn is not the greatest tech. It's kind of buggy and doesn't all work all that well.
Also, it doesn't have a helmet.
Well, yeah. So that's one change that Vanko makes is he takes the helmet out or the person aspect out of the suit and makes them drones. And so they're all automated and run by computers instead of people because he believes people are the problem, which we'll later find out he uses for an ulterior motive.
I've got one person that's a problem in this movie.
Only one?
Well, I mean, she's a problem in all of the movies she appears in, but continue. I wouldn't let her have a suit, but somehow she ends up with one anyway.
Yeah, so like you said, Rhodes stole one of Tony's suits, essentially, and brought that to the military, who then brought in Hammer again to be like, okay, we're going to retrofit this with some new weapons, and turns out those weapons aren't great.
And I'm just going to jump in real quick. Nick Fury always has at least one line in every movie that just has me dying. So in Captain Marvel, it was a cool name for a cool cat. But in this one, he goes, I can't even remember what it is. He goes, best friend stole your suit, huh? Some best friend. Talking about Rhodes stealing the Mark II suit. But I'm going to start making notes of Nick's best one-liners because there's always one that just sticks out to me in every movie. He's like, yeah, some best friend stole your suit. On your birthday. Stole your suit on your birthday.
Okay. Yeah. So then, like you said, we had Tony then goes in this whole daddy thing or whatever. That was in Pepper's office, which used to be his office, because he brought her strawberries because he didn't remember. He thought she liked strawberries, but instead she's allergic to strawberries. So that was the whole thing about strawberries.
These two should definitely get married and have a kid.
But then, so then in the office after Pepper leaves, he notices the diorama and he sees it and thinks that he notices something about it that basically gives him an idea about his heart situation that has him he's going to die from. And so he takes the whole model in his convertible Audi and drives it back to his lab. And so he's putting together all sorts of things and basically shoots a laser through his entire lab and breaks everything. But he creates a new arc reactor and is able to fix his heart issue so that he basically saves himself. And yeah, then I should say in the Nick Fury part, we also saw Agent Coulson again, who is a recurring person through all these movies. And he was assigned to keep an eye on Tony, like basically he was under house arrest. Well, Agent Coulson never saw Tony leave and was kind of not there when that happened, but he came back when Tony was working on his new arc reactor and said he was being reassigned to New Mexico, which will come back later. And so then, yeah.
We'll also revisit in 3 weeks.
So yeah, Stark creates his new element for his arc reactor core, and then we go to the Hammer presentation at the Stark Expo. And this is where Justin Hammer walks out on stage thinking he's the badass and presents all his new drone tech suits that will represent each branch of the military. And then to cap it off, we have Rhodes come up from the floor in his new suit, which then is sort of foreshadowing his War Machine persona that he will take on throughout the rest of Marvel.
Also, we'll keep going. Sorry. I'll let you finish before I interrupt again.
So then all of a sudden kind of chaos breaks loose as the drones start activating, and we learn that Vanko is remotely doing such after he kills some guards that were holding him hostage. And they are all set to kill Tony, who later, he wasn't there at first, but because he finds out that something's going to happen at the expo, he takes his suit and flies to the expo. But that's where then...
Because isn't he's in like a cave or something somewhere. He's not in his like basement. He's out like where Coulson was watching him, was like stashed somewhere in the middle of nowhere where, he would need the suit to fly and go somewhere else. He's not just holed up at his mansion, surrounded by all of his things. He is being kept somewhere where he's super protected. Maybe it's to keep a better eye on him. Maybe it's to keep him safe. Maybe it's to see a bunch of different things, but yeah.
Yeah, so then of course all the drones are activated to kill Tony, including the one that Rhodes is wearing. So there's a battle that happens, and so everybody, chaos and people are running and screaming everywhere, and we see Tony try to divert and stop all the machines, and we at the same time Pepper is finding out what the heck's going on with Justin Hammer, and then Justin Hammer is arrested and taken away. And then we get Vanko comes back in his own suit, and that's the main climactic battle to end this movie, is Vanko coming to try to kill Tony for basically to revenge his father's death.
Avenge.
Yeah.
Avenge his father's death. Avenge. And from there, again, we usually gloss over. We did this with the Captain America movie, and I think we did it a little bit with last week's Iron Man movie, and for sure we did it in Captain Marvel. Y'all can kind of just get an idea. All the drones are shooting at people. Tony is trying to fight. It's a Marvel movie. You have to have a bunch of CGI fight scenes in there, and this is a big penultimate one. And obviously, Tony wins. And the drones self-destruct. Then it's like a happy day. Then Tony saves Pepper Potts. And they end up on a rooftop. And for some reason, they make out.
And Rhodes is sitting there watching the whole thing.
Rhodes is me. I am Rhodes. Rhodes is me. And it's just like Tony in a sea of all of these women. Literally, this is the one. This is the one. Anyway, so then all of that, you can see where this is going with Tony and Pepper. It's fine. Pepper is truly the only person in this world that Tony Stark trusts, which is kind of crazy. But when you see all of the issues that he had with his dad and formative relationships about life and love and family and different things like that, she's the only one that's really stood by him this entire time. I just wish she was played by someone not Gwyneth Paltrow. So, you know, they're kind of paired up. And to basically close out the movie, we get Nick back with Tony Stark, and it's a debriefing on everything. And essentially he kind of says that, you know, this is the Avengers Initiative. We've been watching you. You have all this, everything that you do is what we're looking for. You personally, absolutely unsuitable for this program. Just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And, you know, Tony tries to like almost for the first time, almost is like begging, which is weird for Tony Stark. You get like his ego is mortally wounded on this. And he's like, look, he goes, but you like what I do? Well, I created all of this. He's like, you aren't allowed to be a part of this. We can't trust you. You're just, there's too many wild cards. You are just too much of a wild card. There are too many wild cards, but you can be a consultant and you can like advise us on things. And Tony's like, let me think about it. And then he's like, I'm going to waive my consulting fee, but they're going to make this senator that Tony absolutely hates and who hates Tony, make him give him and Rhodes medals of bravery in like a national TV broadcast. And he's like, yeah, if that happens, fine, I'll do it. And so the next thing we see is, you know, kind of the close of the movie is Rhodes gets his medal, obviously deservedly so. Tony gets one, and the senator kind of like sticks him with it to just get one little jab in. And that's kind of like where everything wraps up until we get to the end of, like, you go through the credits, or like I was telling Teets pre-show, because we're watching these all on Disney Plus. Disney Plus knows how to give us what we want, and it lets you skip straight through the credits to the post-credit scene, or in a couple of movies' cases, multiple post-credit scenes. And so we are taken to the, you know, hit skip credits, and we go to the very last scene of the movie, and it is a car with a New Mexico license plate rumbling down the road in just this barren-ass area, obviously in New Mexico. And you see Coulson get out, overlooking, he's at like a cliff top in the desert, overlooking these scientists, agents, who knows what, looking at this big-ass crater that looks like a meteor hit it. But what is in the center of it? It's a hammer. And I wonder who that belongs to. So there you have it. Iron Man. Just basic, you know, there's not a whole lot of spoil. I mean, it's not a whole lot of spoilers to it. You know, it was one of the, again, it's another one of the first releases. It came out in 2010, so it's 11 years old. That's, yeah. Came out April 28th, 2010. So it's 11 years old. Holds up pretty well technology-wise. I mean, lots of the stuff is actually realistic. You know, most military units use a lot of like these drone fighters and stuff like that, which, you know, wasn't really prevalent 11 years ago, I don't think. Obviously, it was on their radar. For me, This movie is a thumbs down, and it is a bottom 3 worst, one of the worst movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The freaking Mickey Rourke character is such a give up. It is like there's a whole storyline with him and a bird, and it's
Yes.
just like, what? Like, and then, like Hammer is trying to, like, we brought you this bird. That's not the bird. Like, okay, dude.
I want my bird.
I want my bird. Well, you know what? Tell me where your bird is. If you tell me where your bird is, I will go and get it. But just not like, oh, it's just, there's too much Pepper Potts. He's like the worst villain. It's not even a villain. It's just it's bad. It's bad. You could have just taken some of this. This could have been like 3 scenes in the OG Iron Man and then end it with him making out with Pepper Potts. You don't need 2 of these movies. Oh, don't worry. We've got a third one. So this is very much like Cars 2 and Frozen 2 and every other like Disney sequel movie. So you just know the third one is either going to be like good or bad. Teets, what was your take on this movie?
It's not my favorite, but I think during this rewatch, like I told you before we started, I think I appreciated it more with this rewatch, mainly because it sets up a lot of things. We get more Nick Fury, we meet Black Widow, we get the kind of origin of War Machine. There's just a lot of things that are set up, and then we, end credits, we see Thor's hammer, so it's kind of like just a lot of things are set up with this movie.
Yeah, so and that's one of the reasons why I talked to Teets about doing this. Like I said, I've done this before. This is my second go at a cinematic rewatch. And to be honest, the only way I'll watch some of these movies that I don't like is in this kind of process. Just because the redeeming factor, again, is, like I said, every week, every week, it's every week for us, but every movie, Nick swoops in and gives you a little bit more of the breadcrumbs that connect the whole big thing together. And the first time we're going to really see it come to helm is in 3 weeks. We're taking a week off. We've got 2 more movies. Next week is Incredible Hulk, and then we have the origin story of Thor. And then after that is the very first Avengers movie. And so that's when, all of these things that are kind of laid out will really start to make sense. And that basically sums up what I think is what they're calling the first cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we'll have 3 of them. The second one, I think, ends with Civil War, and the third one ends with Endgame, and then the fourth one is starting with like WandaVision, Black Widow, all that kind of stuff. We start seeing like the Eternals and stuff like that. The things I look for the most, and this is why my commentary on the movie is always going to be different compared to Teets's, because 1, I've done this a lot now, and 2, now I'm really just watching for even more comic book Easter eggs or the Nick Fury storylines or different things that really thread it together to make so much more sense. And that's why the emergence of the Black Widow character was so cool in Iron Man 2, because you just know she exists, and you know that she's really important to the whole process, but you don't exactly know why. And I think still to this day, we're not really sure that she knows why she was important to the process, other than she was just like kind of a right-hand person and the heart and the soul and the character judge of the whole Avengers team. But you also start to see how things will kind of sort out when we get to the big bust up in Civil War, because now we have met the 2 Avengers, that will end up kind of leading the charge in Civil War, and what will ultimately. Oh yeah, by the way, we've passed the 30-minute mark, so this is spoiler section for Marvel. But what will essentially fracture the Avengers down the line. What were some of your takeaways, and things that you liked from this movie?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, just the setups. I think I don't. It's been a long time since I've watched this movie, so I kind of forgot that this is really where we met Black Widow and we got all that kind of stuff. Like you said, the Vanko stuff is it's not great. But yeah, like just seeing like Natasha and Nick Fury and that building up, and towards the end, then we see Thor's hammer. That just all kind of gets you excited for what's to come later.
Yeah. I'm going to warn you, boy. I think if Marvel had it to do all over again, they would really just they probably should try and do a pre-Incredible Hulk 2, or like Incredible Hulk the beginning with Mark Ruffalo, and really try to reset it. I'm going to warn you, this one sticks out like a sore thumb. But I think it's like the second one that came out, right?
Yep. It is the second movie that came out.
Yeah. So it's obviously before they knew that it was going to be, one of these big kind of game-changing franchises. We hadn't really seen, like I said, when we saw Iron Man, the OG Iron Man, came out at the same time as when we had the Christian Bale Batman series. I think we talked about that 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So, prior to that, we hadn't really had a successful comic book series or graphic novel series translate to the movie screen. Maybe like Hellboy.
Or I would say maybe the Spider-Mans. Those might have. A lot of people like
the OG, like Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'll allow that. Because I'm trying, because Superman never really clicked. Well, the very, very, very first Superman, but in modern times, or in movies that Teets was at least alive to watch, we hadn't really had many successful comic book or graphic novel to theatrical production or movie production success. So with Hulk, again, looking just a little bit forward, because it is Edward Norton Hulk, who does not play the Hulk anymore. And I think they've been able to really find a perfect balance between the Bruce Banner character with Mark Ruffalo. So I think if they could have a do-over, or if they could find some way that didn't affect the overall cycle and what they're going for, and who's to say, maybe we will see a fourth cycle new Hulk movie that kind of fleshes out more of his life from Civil War on as well, because that was a really important time. Black Widow was a very important person in Incredible Hulk's life and Bruce Banner's life. So, as you start to see, this is the other cool thing, is you start to see opportunities down the line, more stories that you want to know about, even things that make you want to go to the comic books themselves and just try and read for yourself to parse out more details and on how all of the relationships work, and things down the line. It's probably the one thing that I did like about this movie is it is short. It is right under 2 hours, which is like perfect timing. So that's also why I feel like they could have taken the really important things out of it, the story building parts, and put it on to the first Iron Man movie and be good with it, or done that and then split that movie in half to make Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2. But just like we said, we see again what's going to be the most important phrase in Endgame when we get to the end of this watch is the "I am Iron Man" statement from Tony. Don't ever forget that. He is Iron Man. Everything comes full circle in the Marvel Universe. No loop is really left untied. Everything is closed. So that's what's really cool. I made another note. So yes, we will, again, to go back to the loop, it's really great to see the opening of Tony's daddy issues. And you really get it kind of laid bare what his points of upset are with Howard and how things left between the two of them. I don't even think there was much of a relationship there, as you could see. He always thought he was a nuisance and in his dad's way. And even though he saw the video where his dad is directly speaking to him, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for you, it ties up a lot, it closes a lot of wounds that Tony personally is feeling, but he doesn't have complete closure on that relationship with his dad. And again, it's also because Tony's a narcissist, so it's always got to be about him. So it's going to be interesting. Well, in Endgame you see more of that, but this is it was a really interesting point in how he saw Howard Stark treat him as a child, how he knows how he was treated as a child, and that's why Tony has just chosen this single playboy lifestyle, because I want to do all these things, and the one thing he thought his dad should never do was have a family. If he wanted to be all these things and try and produce all these different things, was to be a dad, be married, one, but two, definitely not be a dad. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't know. Howard Stark really does play a big role throughout the entire MCU. So I think, especially because one thing Nick Fury brought up in this movie is that, he's a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we'll see Howard again in Captain America movies and Avengers movies and stuff like that. He'll just keep getting brought up. So it really goes back to, I think, while, yeah, I agree that they probably could have put these two movies together, they, having the family storyline played a big part in setting up the whole MCU too.
Yeah. So, as you're talking about Howard Stark and the importance that he plays, and Nick kind of having to educate Tony on all of this, and he watched the movies, and then but Nick also had a really good line in there too. He's like, Tony, your dad loved you. You were really, really important to your dad. And how much do you think, obviously we're going to see going forward, but from this movie, how much do you think that they were, that especially Nick was looking for information back from everyone surrounding Tony to kind of compare personalities? And if it was comparing him to Howard, that is what ultimately deemed him as unsuitable to be a part of the Avengers project, knowing how much that Howard brought to the original, the creation of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Because again, it's another kind of ego swipe at Tony. You've got to get, but the other thing is, what do you do with the narcissist? You have to strike them at their core, which is their ego. And by telling him that he's not worth it, it's like, nah, we're good. We actually don't need you. You can come hang out if you want, but no, you just don't work for us. What is that going to do? Ultimately, it's going to motivate him more to be what they want him to be, to fit in, because his curiosity is just never going to let him sit with being left out of whatever secret stuff they're doing or things that he just has a taste of. If there's anything, especially if it's anything like what he's experiencing now and working on and encountering, and there's more of that out there, he has to be a part of it. He won't be able to sleep. He won't be able to do anything without being a part of it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's kind of another reason why I like Tony is I'm kind of like that. I like to have my hands involved in a lot of things. So
So Tony is the first Avenger with super FOMO. He's probably the only one with FOMO, I'm thinking. Maybe Natasha. But the thing is, I think Natasha just wanted to be a part of something. She wanted people and she wanted to be a part of something. Favorite scene for me also is when Tony is sparring with Happy at the gym.
Yeah.
And Natalie, aka Natasha, aka the Black Widow, comes in and gets in to go spar Happy, and they're all concerned, like, can you handle this? And then what happens?
Happy's on the ground, hurt.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite moment. Yeah, that's my favorite moment. Then that, and then the Nick line is, on your birthday, your best friend stole your suit and flew away. So what are your takeaways from this? Any other takeaways you have from this movie? Because it's my notes that I made were, we meet Black Widow. It's all about Tony's daddy issues. And Tony's a narcissist. Were the three things that I wrote down. The three most important things. What are the three most important things from the movie, you think?
Black Widow is probably number one. I think just all this that like I said before, setting up the War Machine aspect, then Thor's hammer, the whole shield aspect, and just learning more about what Tony's dad did and how it is involved in this whole MCU process, because we'll just keep going back to that. Everything just keeps tying back together. So
also, I'm really shocked that there's no country bears on the wall behind you.
I did almost put something up, but it's much smaller, so I kind of wanted to go with like a everything the same kind of thing. But this is all old calendar artwork, like from a calendar I had, and then I just cut off the date part and put the image up.
See, that's what you need to start collecting, the attraction poster calendars, if you don't already have those. So that was Iron Man 2. I give it 1.5 stars, and it is easily in my bottom 3 of all Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Teets, your turn.
I'm going to go 2.5.
Whoa, because Iron Man is your favorite Avenger.
Yes.
And it's still in the middle of the road. You haven't hit like a full-on ranking of anything. Okay. So that was Iron Man 2. Next week, we will tackle Incredible Hulk. That's going to be the world's shortest show because that movie is so trash.
Maybe.
And
I was going to say maybe we could touch on then too, if we wanted to. We could touch on what we've thought about WandaVision or Captain, the Winter Soldier and stuff. Those kind of things, if we want to. Because I've got some comments already on the Falcon and Winter Soldier series.
What?
I'm just waiting to talk.
Good or bad?
Well, since you've watched at least the first, I gotta say I hate new Captain America.
Oh man!
But I'm not the only one that feels that way, so it's kind of
all right. Well, so we've got a little bit of time left. We've missed some news. Do you want to wrap up with is there any Disney news you want to talk about?
I don't know where to begin. We had some cruising news. The Disney Magic is getting back out there, but UK residents only. So it'll be interesting to see how those goes. It's
a cruise to nowhere, and it is UK residents only, which is weird because they're not requiring vaccination, and their testing protocol is not really up, but I think based on everything I'm hearing from Clea is that this is similar to what Royal Caribbean and Celebrity did out of Israel and Greece, and they are using this as their Clea Healthy Sailing Panel Session 2, which is test sails. And so they are just making sure that their contact tracing protocol is up to what it needs to be, that their social distancing, that their isolation techniques are ready, everything that meets Clea's Healthy Sailing Panels recommendations. And then I think when this came out, I told Teets and Courtney, who I'm going to be talking more cruising with on Wednesday, I would not be surprised if we saw Disney take the Dream in like July or August on round trip 4 and 5-day cruises out of Nassau, which is already a home port that they own, again, for Cruise to Nowhere or overnights at Castaway Cay. So as long as the CDC is not allowing domestic cruise lines to sail, they're going to find home ports to sail out of. And I think personally, it's cool. I'm really interested in a couple of them. And I think it's to the detriment of our cruising unions, our port unions, and different things in the United States that the CDC isn't giving better guidance on all of this. But that's for a cruising show later. We saw some work going on at Tron again, finally.
Well, they've finished the shell of the canopy. They now just have to, I guess, do the lighting and whatnot. From what I've heard, rumor-wise, they are going to start working on the inside again this summer instead of where previously it was supposed to be pushed off until the fall. So now they're pushing it up to the summer to really restart.
Any word on Harmonious?
No, nothing. They did, well, I don't think it's really related to Harmonious, but they did just put a job posting for a fireworks designer. I think that's more for down the road because I've got to imagine that Harmonious, a lot of that like design and concept stuff is done already.
So also on our website and we have a blog, crescentlakeclub.com, and you can find all the news there. Marcus, our West Coast correspondent, is actually at Touch of Disney today, and he's going to be reviewing that event. And I think he's really hopeful to be back at Disneyland when it reopens at the end of April. So that's going to be really exciting. Speaking
of Disneyland, we did have news of that, some news from there this past week as well. They're started a campaign essentially to get the city to change some things so that they can expand and do some different things in the future.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, I've gone back through a whole bunch of stuff, and it's been something that's been on my mind since essentially Run Disney did away with their Disneyland races, their West Coast races, was why aren't certain areas allowed to be utilized in different ways? Why are they all single zoned? And it goes back to like the 90s. The last time Disneyland proper, its existing footprint, had any zoning changes was back in the 90s when they built the Mickey and Friends parking garage and what is now Downtown Disney and ultimately California Adventure. And so anything that existed there prior to that, even like parking lots that they use for construction and different things like that, are still zoned purely as infrastructure, as resort, as entertainment, and there's no multi-use.
I was gonna, isn't the Toy Story lot zoned for something else though? Because that was always zoned like as an expansion plot for some. I think they can do something else with that one at least.
Toy Story is the only thing that is zoned as mixed use, and that's why they held on to it for the longest. So all of existing Downtown Disney is just zoned as entertainment. So when they started closing everything down, thinking that they could build a new resort where ESPN was, they thought the city would be fine with just doing it mixed use. So now it could be hotel and entertainment. And the city at that point in time said no. And because in most cases, if you're paying your property taxes and you're on the up and up and it doesn't really hurt the economy or the surroundings, especially something that's already kind of insulated on an existing footprint, most of the time you just have to file the paperwork and wait it out to get permission for a zoning change. In this case, they weren't asking for additional liquor licenses. They weren't asking for, zoning outages. It's this area where that hotel was supposed to go is very insulated from residential areas. So it's got the, traffic infrastructure that it really wouldn't affect anything. And the city council of Anaheim flat out said no. And that's kind of when the two roads stopped meeting and they stopped working together on anything. And then now it took the pandemic, and you could see they've got a website, and it's called DisneylandForward.com that you can go and look at. And it's, it's obviously everything that they've been working on for the past year to basically show Disneyland, hey, these are the things we want to change. We're not asking for taxpayer money. We're not asking for any kind of public money. We're not asking for a decrease in our tax rate or anything else like that. We literally just want you to change these parts of the parcel of land and the footprint we currently have to be 100% completely mixed use zoning. If you do that, this is what we've kind of have in mind, that we will bring official construction planning for you to permit in 2023. And I think because the city is down something like, I wrote about it in the blog item, but I'm in a very tourism and hospitality dependent city, and the budget shortfall everyone is facing in tourism cities from COVID is massive. And so just even the permits alone for this in 2023 and the potential tax revenue they can make up from this expansion when it finally happens in like 2028 will really help offset the loans that they have to take out right now to make up for budget shortfalls for 2021 and 2022. So I think they're going to get what they want zoning wise, but I don't think we need to look too much further into that until we start seeing like real concept art. I know like Teets was excited. He's like, oh my God, it's Wakanda. I see Wakanda on the map. I'm like, okay.
Well, I kind of figured because Pandora was in there too, and I'm like, that's probably not going to happen. So
yeah, they copy and pasted a lot of artist renderings.
Now you got to think though, if they're copying pasting Wakanda, they've obviously developed that for some things. So what are their plans for that?
I think a lot of it is, it's blue sky. You have ideas and stuff. Like the Orange County Register really went in their story and really broke it down. And you could see they're like, oh, it's reminiscent of this village at Shanghai. Yeah. I'm like, oh no, that's just someone straight up copied and pasted.
And that too, that the DCA part of the expansion was a copy and paste of Fantasia Springs, which is coming to Disney or going to Disney Sea in Tokyo.
Yeah. So, I think there was just a lot of excitement, and of course we can all be really excited. Disneyland is something that, we love. Teets has never been there. I'm hoping he gets to go this year. It's probably my favorite domestic park, to be honest. And anything new and different and exciting is great. And I love that they're looking for new options with the footprint. And I think it actually has gone a long way to rebuild that partnership and a lot of goodwill on both sides, that Disneyland offered the Toy Story parking lot up as both a mass testing and a mass COVID vaccination site for the pandemic. It was really funny. I'm stealing this joke from Marcus, but he's like, yeah, California annual pass holders hearing that Disneyland is going to be a vaccination site, thinking they're going to go through the gate and walk down Main Street and get their jab in front of the castle. No, you're driving through the Toy Story parking lot. So anyway, I think for right now, I think it's a win-win for both the city and Disneyland, and it also helps them do a lot of development around some of the really empty areas out by Angel Stadium and the Honda Center, because what Teets will see when he finally gets to Disneyland is there's not a whole lot of hotels around there too to support. Disneyland proper only has 3.
And they obviously have plans for more. They had the 4th that was supposed to come and didn't happen. I think what was most interesting to me in this process is that and obviously everything is going to change by the time we get there, but that they didn't think of this as a 3rd gate, but rather expansions of the existing parks. That was really, I think that's something I don't think really anybody else had considered before.
Yeah, and for me, having been there so much, a 3rd gate, to think of a 3rd gate at Disneyland seems absolutely ridiculous. If anything, you unify all of it into 1 gate, because you can kind of just section, like it's all 1 park. You already go back and forth. The price difference between a 1-day 1 park ticket and a park hopper is negligible. And so if you've got the hotels in the middle of everything, and Disneyland and just the Esplanade is what truly connects you to where you enter into all the parks, expansions on both sides, there's no need to build a 3rd park. I told Teets this earlier last week. I think if the powers that be, and maybe it goes all the way up to Iger and Chapek, had a do-over, I don't think they would have put Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. 1, not where it's at, and 2, not at all. What do you think?
Yeah, I think before they opened, there was a lot more hype and a lot more thought that these would be like the groundbreaking, brand new things that would be essentially their own park to begin with, and people would just come out in droves for them. You had Disneyland that made it so you had to have your basically the first few months or whatever was like Disneyland hotel guests only, which is something like unheard of. And it never really shaped up to be the thing that everybody had hoped for. But I think part of that too is because they did the whole phased opening thing, which I think hurt them, considering their crowning attraction did not open with the land. So you kind of, people, it's like, okay, we can ride the Falcon, but this attraction is just okay. It's not great. And I can go have $20 drinks at Oga's, but okay. So I think they kind of failed on a few levels there.
So to kind of bring it back to Marvel and Iron Man 2, which thanks for everyone that's viewing. We just finished doing our review of Iron Man 2 as part of our Marvel Cinematic Universe rewatch or chronological rewatch. I give it a thumbs down and a 1.5 stars. Teets gives it a thumbs up and a 2.5. I say it's one of the bottom 3 worst movies of the entire series. Teets won't say anything because he loves Iron Man. But so now we're talking just a little bit of Disneyland, which is going to have a Marvel Avengers campus. And so when the parks open in April, none of the new Marvel rides will be open except for the existing Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
Yep.
Which is a way better ride than Tower of Terror. Don't at me. I said it. I know I'm right. I'm absolutely right. But so it's looking like we may see in the fall just the general Avengers campus opening, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think they'll wait as long as Disney is with Walt Disney World is waiting with Ratatouille. So I think we could see it late summer, depending on how capacity increases at Disneyland, because I think fairly soon off the bat they're going to move from 15% to 25%, and then so on in California. But I don't see why they wouldn't open with the attraction right away. Spider-Man is done, so I think you just gotta. I don't know why they would open the land without that at this point. But I expect it late summer, maybe early fall.
And so with that campus, we're getting the Spider-Man ride and just the general campus, which I think is going to be where you can meet all the characters, because right now you can meet Captain America, Captain Marvel, and Black Panther in different areas to the left of the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. And they have cool little setups, like Danvers is in front of a plane, and Black Panther has his guard that you have to walk through to go and get him, and he's in like a tunnel. Captain Marvel or Captain America and Loki, of all things, are just kind of wandering around. Thor is around too.
Guardians are usually sometimes outside Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. It's Star-Lord and Gamora and like full-grown Groot are out, and they usually do like a non-pandy times. They do a show that involves like playing music and stuff like that. So the Avengers are definitely really present at California Adventure. So this is going to be a great new place to see them. I imagine like part of it is going to be similar to like Launch Bay, where now you're bringing in their meet and greet elements into like one big building, or
you have that whole Doctor Strange area that's coming as part of this. I don't know if that's opening right away, but that's supposed to be more of a show experience type thing than just a meet and greet, because there's supposed to be like interactive elements and whatnot. We haven't really heard a whole lot really about it, but that's supposed to be coming.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I'll miss Bugs Land, but it wasn't for me. And I know people were sad about it, but it was like a lot of off the shelf kind of rides. And we've already seen one repurposed onto Pixar Pier. So there's that. But all right, if anyone doesn't have any questions, Teach, you got any closing thoughts on Disneyland, Disney News, Marvel?
No, I think we covered everything.
Anything you're excited about?
I'm excited for you to finish WandaVision, hopefully, finally soon here. I feel like I've finished that like 3 months ago at this point. It's been forever, but
I told you I was going to wait until it was done, and then I was just going to watch it all in one sitting. And I almost did it. Hey, so this is a really great question. So for the movies, I can do skip credits, and it goes to any special scenes. The credits for WandaVision are like 6 minutes long. Am I missing?
They're awful. But
okay.
But
am I missing anything by not watching the credits? Because I just said no.
No, but then there's only end credit scenes in I think the last 2 or 3 episodes. So really, it only matters.
It will say like skip credits, because the credits are like 6 freaking minutes.
Yeah.
And this, like, the whole thing it's just 24 minutes with 6 minutes of credits. Come on.
Yep.
Like, are you naming everyone on the laugh track in these credits? All right. I will finish WandaVision in time for us to kind of talk about it, because I really don't know that I can talk about Hulk for more than 20 minutes. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I'm Keels, he's Teets. We are members of the Crescent Lake Club. We go live here on Twitch and YouTube 3 times a week. Teets and I are here on Mondays for Marvel Mondays. Courtney will join me on Wednesdays for Wind Down Wednesday, where we talk all things travel. And then on Sundays, the whole gang gets together, and it is just, to put it lightly, a shit show. But you never know what we're going to talk about. It's super fun. But so if you're following us on Twitch, or if you're watching us on Twitch, please hit that purple follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and the bell notification so you know when we go live with a special show or anything like that. We do have a website. It's crescentlakeclub.com. We've got a great blog there. Teets does all of so much blogging, so much breaking news, especially related to like Disney and Universal and movies and all sorts of things. So, we're just trying to grow the show and grow the content network. But thanks again for joining us tonight. I'll try and work up some bits for Hulk next week. Boy, it's going to be a real struggle. But from all of us here, thanks, you guys. And I'll see all of y'all back here on Wednesday for Wind Down Wednesday. Have a good one.